Hello and welcome to episode 94, the actual episode 94. I'm pretty sure I said 94 last week, but this is the actual episode 94 of Brews Less Travel, the podcast exploring the best uncharted beer scenes across the United States. I'm your host, Brian. Howdy. Back again for another episode covering the great city of Milwaukee. And of course, I am joined by my wonderful co-host for this month, Ken. Ken, how's it going?
Good, Brian. How are you? And I think you did say 94 last week too.
Yeah, I definitely did. I am doing well. I had a great day. We spent it in our little town here of Millville, walking around, and we went to the hot dog cart guy, and went to the park with my daughter and played there. And she met a new friend, and made a good dinner tonight. Went grocery shopping. I didn't buy any snacks, which is like a big accomplishment for me anytime I go grocery shopping. So
I struggle with that too. Cool. Yeah, we had a great day here too. First full day of spring. It actually kind of felt like the first full day of spring here in the upper Midwest. So we're excited. Of course, there's a little bit of snow in the forecast later on this week, but since we can't get too excited.
Hey, yeah, you're gonna have that. Up there.
Yep.
And yeah, like I mentioned already. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, excited to talk about these beers we're gonna have today and our guest.
Yeah, definitely excited for that. Excited for our beers. Excited for our guests. Excited for our featured brewery. Like I mentioned, we are making our way through the great city of Milwaukee. We got another featured brewery from the Milwaukee area tonight. It is Raised Grain Brewing Company. They are located in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and they opened in 2015. We are actually featuring two beers from them tonight, as is customary. We have their Paradocs Red Imperial Red IPA, as well as their Black Walnut Belgian Imperial Stout. And we're also going to be joined by a wonderful guest from Raised Grain Brewing Company. He's one of the owners. He's a brewer there. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Jimmy Gosset.
Brian, Ken, thanks so much for having me.
Jimmy, great to see you.
Thanks for joining us, Jimmy. Good to see you. We're going to get started here, as is customary. I think that's the second time I've said that tonight. As we do here on the podcast, we get started with our quick sip questions. These are fast questions. We want fast answers, and it'll help us get to know you fast. Jimmy, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Cool. Favorite non-raised grain beer?
Favorite non-raised grain beer, I would say, is Phase 3 Pixel Density.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good beer. Good beer. Old Milwaukee, Miller High Life, or PBR?
PBR.
All right. Favorite historical beer site, either in Milwaukee or elsewhere?
Well, I have to go back to Belgian, my Belgian roots. I'll preface a little bit. I've actually been lucky enough to be at Chimay, one of the Trappist breweries in Belgium, several times, and I have to hark back to that's probably a favorite.
Excellent, excellent answer. What's your favorite Midwestern stereotype? Is it the niceties? Is it the owning of multiple ice scrapers? What is it?
I would say that the Midwest has a nice vibe with you, if you will. And so I think that's a unique part of it. I think there's a lot of Charlie Barron's, you guys probably know, or maybe not, but he's actually a comedian that focuses on a lot of particularly Wisconsin, but Midwest uniqueness that we have.
Wisconsin stereotypes.
Wisconsin stereotypes. So if you ever want to see Wisconsin stereotypes, and I don't know if you've seen Charlie or not, but he's awesome because he nails it for a lot of things. But I think in general the Midwest vibe is I think we're pretty kind despite weather and everything else we deal with.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Charlie Barron's. I actually watched one of his videos, and that's what kind of sparked the idea behind this question. That guy's awesome.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, go check out Charlie Barron's, everyone, please.
Absolutely.
I can't remember. dang, I wish I could remember the name of his podcast right now. But he wrote a very good book called The Midwestern Survival Guide. That is very funny. Final and favorite quick sip question. Have you ever seen Bigfoot or UFO or anything paranormal?
Before or after drinking Raised Grain?
Oh, all fronts.
Short answer is short answer is no, I'm not really. But it's not that I don't believe in any of those things. I just personally haven't seen it.
We appreciate the honesty.
Well, thanks, Jimmy. Why don't we get into Paradox Red? Tell us about the beer. I know you're one of the pair of docs that created this beer. So tell us about how it came to be.
Absolutely. So, it's certainly my emotional favorite. And I think, one of our flagships, if you will. So to backdrop a little bit, the initial brewing, and we'll get into this probably more of how the whole brewery genesis occurred. That beer recipe was written, I believe it was the third recipe that Scott and I, when Scott's the other physician in the Paradocs. I'm vascular surgery, and he is I do vascular disease management, and he is actually a dermatopathologist as his practice. But originally, the brewery name before we met Nick was going to be Paradox. And so, like I said, that's about the third beer, I believe, recipe that we brewed, or that we, wrote in the basement for the electric brewing system that we initially brewed on. So it's one of the first we ever did. And it is an Imperial Red IPA. And in the Imperial category, I love the beer because it's got a lot of hops to it. It's an 80 IBU beer, but it's unique because of the malt bill that we use. It does not taste like a bitter beer, and that malt backbone that we use, I think, really offsets that. So I think one of the hallmarks of the beer is the balance in the beer. That's what I would say. I think that's one of the things that I think is unique with that beer. Some red malt, we use some of the other grains make that kind of maltiness, and it really offsets a fairly hoppy beer from a standpoint, or a fairly bitter, I should say, with an IBU of 80. So I like the balance of that beer a lot. Again, it's an emotional favorite. We actually opened in 2015. We'll get into that a little more, I'm sure, Labor Day. And we submitted this beer to GABF in 2016 and actually won a gold medal in the Imperial Red IPA category, which unfortunately was funny because we were one of the breweries that we weren't able to send any representatives to GABF to get the medal. We happened to be not there just because my practice and Scott's practice and everybody else was busy doing their stuff. We really didn't have assistant brewers at that point in time, so they actually had to send the medal to us.
I was going to ask you what it felt like to be in Colorado and win that award, and you just shot that question.
He wouldn't know.
Just shot it right away.
I'm sure that right there was like 3,000 people right in the Denver Convention Center. It's live streamed. A huge deal, and obviously announcing bronze, silver, and gold. I'm sure they announced Raised Grain and likely mispronounced Waukesha, I'm sure.
Probably.
Like, where is that? But we heard about it through Milwaukee Beer Writer, some other tweets, And Nick actually texted it to, or tweeted it out saying, we saw a couple premonitory ones, I should say, saying, congratulations to Raised Grain for, their winning. And we're like, huh, what? That was literally, we opened, like I said, in 2015 on Labor Day. And that was the first time we had submitted beers, thinking, okay, we're going to do this, but obviously it's kind of the Oscars or, Emmys, if you will, of beer. So it was a huge, huge honor. And I think fitting that it was the Paradocs that, that won in terms of the beer. He also won a gold medal in the North American Brewers Association also in 2016 with that beer. So kind of exciting stuff and very humbling, frankly. And honestly, though we knew it was a great beer, not to be centric, big honor for us and big honor for the brewery. So exciting stuff. So that was kind of that's again one of my, I think, certainly one of our flagships and again, my emotional favorite.
Yeah, I think the description that I saw is the beer that started it all, and that story certainly backs that up with it being one of the original recipes that you wrote and taking a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival early on, the second year that you were in operation. I just want to jump, you touched on a bunch of things there, and I think we should just jump into the beginnings of the brewery. You've talked about how there's a pair of docs that are part of the ownership group there at Raised Grain. You talked about your home brewing backgrounds. We've touched on a number of things, but I think we should go back. You want to talk about the founding of Raised Grain, how the Paradocs came together, how the whole ownership group came together, and what it was like opening in 2015 in Waukesha.
Yeah, well, it is a cool story, I think, and it's one of these things that I don't know if you guys buy into this, but sometimes things are just meant to happen. So we fast, kind of rewind. Actually, Scott, as a medical school or as a resident, actually was one of my residents in training. I'm a couple years older than he is when I was chief resident. So we actually met way back in our medical training. And I went to train at the Cleveland Clinic. He trained down in Texas for pathology. And actually, we ironically kind of reconnected at a mutual friend's party one night. I see Scott and see each other. It's kind of like, we didn't kind of miss a beat. I mean, we were good friends, at that point in time. But again, we kind of were going our separate ways at that point. And I invited him over. I have always been interested in brewing beer. I've been over to Belgium. We'll get again a little bit more into this. Since my dad is from there, he came over when he was about 24. Every 2 or 3 years since I've been too. We used to spend our entire summers over there. So I've always had a like of Belgian beer. I think I had my first Stella Artois when I was probably, a little sip, maybe 5, 6. And, the Belgian European culture over there, Sunday dinners where all the relatives get together. Everybody has, a little bit of a beer. It's it's kind of a different culture than the alcohol here it is in the US. So I kind of laugh as an aside at a lot of the Stella Artois commercials because, it's kind of this, sexy French kind of speaking, kind of very good beer. And ironically, my dad actually trained in Louvain, and Louvain is the city in Belgium where actually Stella Artois is brewed. And so at any rate, I've always had an interest and always wanted to brew. So I got a home brewing kit. When I finished my training at the Cleveland Clinic, I was recruited here back to Milwaukee, and I was doing 5-gallon carboy, batches of beer, initially kits, then initially, extract, and then initially, all grain. And then I invited, since I saw Scott, we kind of got back together, got to do things kind of together again. And I invited him over on a Sunday to do a batch of actually what is really now our Belgian double recipe, which is actually named Jimmy's Trip Home. And we do that seasonally. And so that was the first beer that we brewed together. And you know how it is brewing in 5-gallon carboy. It's a little putsy. It's a little bit of a
Very putsy. Yeah.
it's putsy, right? I mean, we had the wort in my big utility sink with ice in it. We didn't have,
Oh, boy, are the
counterflow
legs in the
killers or
sink gonna
anything
give
like
out?
that.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, right? So, I mean, you've been there, I'm sure. So we're like, he's like, God, this is fun. This is cool. But God, let's do better with this. It got to be easier. So built an electric brewing system in Scott's basement, and started doing 15-gallon batches. And we had heated and cool conical fermenter, actually little ones that we got, 3-vessel system with mainly Blickman. And we started writing recipes. And so that was really where we started to really, seriously brew and do the recipes that we did. Like I said, the first recipe, I think the third recipe was Paradocs, but we did a whole host of different Belgians and different things. Built a Keyser, and guys, I assume, right, everyone knows what a Keyser is, and put our, all the tanks in there. And then we had 6 or so taps. And then we had people over, and people tried the beers. And Nick, through friends and mutual acquaintances, actually had the beer, spent a night with us brewing. He had a business plan for a brewery, which I won't digress into too much, but it was going to be actually in his father's old company, who did a lot of woodworking and cabinetry making, etc., which is where the Raised Grain name I will come into a little bit more. But had basically a business plan for a brewery, but no brewers. And, asked, hey, you guys interested in doing a project? You interested in doing brewing? And we're kind of like, well, we kind of have day jobs, which are kind of
serious,
relatively busy day jobs.
Relatively important.
Nick was like, I think we can work through that. And got another business partner who was involved, Kevin. And within a year, we had found a space, and we were actually open. So we started in a very small little light industrial space, opened Labor Day of 2015, 4,000 square foot space. We had a 2,500 square foot brew house with 10-barrel mash tun, 7-barrel heated and cool conical fermenters. And that's how we started. The tap room was 1,500 square feet, so it was a little 4,000 square foot place. We really built out the whole place ourselves. I remember we were there till 2, 3 in the morning building out the brewery. So we did a lot ourselves. And like I said, Labor Day of 2015 is when we opened. I think our first year, our production was maybe 300-400 barrels. Might have even been that much our first year, because obviously we had a truncated year being from Labor Day through 16. But all our own taps, of course, and we had a couple guest taps sometimes, but mainly ours. And from there, really the same faces that we've had in that brewery that I remember the first day we opened continue to come to the brewery. So our loyalty for our brewery has been a huge deal for us in terms of our success. We got successful really way quicker than any of us expected. Again, we're humbled by that, and then found this new space, which is about 5 minutes from the space we originally were in. We then partnered actually with ProBrew in New Berlin, Wisconsin. That's our system. It's a new 20-barrel system. With now I believe we have 8 60s and 7, I believe, or 620s fermenters, and been very, very happy with the partnership with them. Great system. And we started brewing in that new space, which is 20,000 square feet, in January of 18. And then we would take the product back to our old tap room. And then we slowly built out the 6,000 square foot tap room that we have now, 14,000 square foot brew house. And we opened that in December of 18.
How long was it before you you realized that you were outgrowing your original space? I mean, you obviously couldn't. Was it day? Was it? You said you opened on Labor Day. Was it the day after, or or maybe the next weekend?
No, not quite. But timeline wise, probably into the year, I would say. Of course, since we really got that new system in January of 18. And again, we opened up, Labor Day of 15. So it was pretty quick. It was, again, much more rapid than we certainly anticipated it would be, which was, like I said, a humbling thing, and it really had everything to do with, I would like to think, very good product, not to toot the own horn, but also the loyalty of the people who have supported us and have continued to, and the Waukesha community has been great from that standpoint, as well as all the surrounding communities and Milwaukee as well. We're a little bit out of Milwaukee from the standpoint of where we're physically locaed, but we get a lot of people.
20 minutes or so from downtown.
That's exactly correct. And the good thing about Milwaukee is, with the interstates, it's not like Chicago in general. Yes, we have traffic, but it's pretty accessible. So, downtown, et cetera, and getting out there is not like trying to negotiate, like I said, Chicago or some of these other big, areas. But the support from the community, that's been huge. That's been huge for us, and so I always say that it's surreal for me to this day. It's going to be 8 years in September. That'll be our anniversary. It's surreal to me to walk in the brewery and to see people, enjoying and drinking the beer. We've partnered with Beer Capital now as our distributor, and they do a great job for us. And we have 2 dedicated, wrapped semi trailers. And, I have friends who take pictures and text me and go, dude, like, it's a, raised grain trailer, a beer. It's all these things have progressed and have just been, I always say it's a surreal thing to still walk in, especially to the new space and the new brewery, and see people enjoying the beer and the success that we've had, and being invited to things like this. That's like I said, humbling, and it's really huge.
Well, that's great. It's good to see how, it's good to hear how much support that you feel that the neighborhood brings you, and recognize that, and share that community environment together. I don't know if we've talked about this on the show yet, but I think we have. Your family is from Belgian, specifically the region of Wallonia, which is, to beer nerds, is known as the birthplace of Saison. Can you talk more about the connection? Excuse me. Can you talk more about the connection between your role at Raised Grain Brewing there, your home brewing background, and your family's Belgian heritage?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So it's certainly been a big influence, again, certainly for me. I always kind of, say that I have beer genes. Certainly, I think on my mother was since passed away, was from here, from the U.S. But I've always had a love of that Belgian culture, and I think we always set out in Raised Grain from a standpoint of what we want it to be is really not only community being able to access us, but it not it being kind of the European culture, if you will, in Belgium, where families go to cafes, families go to breweries in Belgium, and friends go, and it's a place, not to consume necessarily, beer all the time, but it's also a place, to get together, connect, and we wanted that to be the initial space. And the new space, it's got huge floor to ceiling windows. We have bags there. We get a lot of families who have, small kids, and, maybe not at 9 o'clock at night, but during the day. And, that's the Belgian culture in beer. And certainly I would say a birthplace. And so that, I think, it's not only been a big influence in kind of what we wanted, we've wanted Raised Grain to be and wanted to have that particular beer culture to be, but it's also been a big influence, in our recipes. So we do quite a few Belgian styles of beer. We have a Belgian triple that we actually put a little bit of hops in, which is one of our year-round beers, called Bird's Eye. And we do, again, the seasonal Belgian double, which again is Jimmy's trip home. And we do a Saison for the summer. And then we'll get into it. But, the Black Walnut is, if you will, a Belgian style stout, which we'll get into a little bit more of, why we call that. But the Belgian influence has been a good, and it's a style that there's not a lot of breweries do. And I think for some it's somewhat polarizing from a standpoint of, that estuary Belgian yeast that, really kind of makes those beers unique, and that these are a Belgian beer, whether that be a single, a double, a triple, a quad, a Saison. You kind of know when you're a beer, person, that you're drinking a Belgian, right? Based on that. So it's been a big influence from the brewery, from the recipe writing, and I think just the overall culture of Raised Grain as well. So the Wallonia is the southern part that speaks French. The northern part is the Flemish part. But we still embrace, lambics and cricks and, some of the other, I don't know if but there's this kind of funny bantering between the French speaking Wallons and the Dutch speaking North Flemish. And so it's something that's been through Belgium and for a long time, but it's more of kind of a bantering thing. But at any rate, yes. So that's had a lot of influence. Had a lot of influence for me, obviously. We took the family, timeline, 3-4 years ago, and still keep in close contact. I still have a lot of relatives over there. Hoping actually to go this summer again, potentially, now that things are, the veil is lifting.
Yeah.
Calm down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So the Belgian part of my heritage and my culture, I think, it's had a big influence on on the brewery.
Well, that's a great segue into let's open our second beer, the Black Walnut Belgian Imperial Stout. Let's tell us about the genesis of that, and let's
Sure.
start enjoying that.
Sure. So it's an Imperial stout in the category, if you will. And what we've done with that beer is the Belgian part of that is not the yeast that we use, which, for a lot of Belgian beers, that's what kind of makes the beers unique, again, from that, kind of estery standpoint. But for this particular beer, we use obviously stout base, a lot of dark malt, but we also use particular Belgian malts in this beer, and also dark candy sugar. So we give it a little bit of a boost, if you will. And so this is 9.6%, and interestingly, 100 IBUs.
Doesn't taste like it.
Yeah, right. So actually, arguably, it could be the highest IBU beer, but again, you've got that big malt backbone, and that Belgian candy sugar as well there, and you get so it really does not taste like a bitter beer. I always say in the brewery, we get a lot of confusion with people who are and I won't digress 2 seconds, but I don't like IPAs because I don't like hoppy beers. Well, hops and bitterness, as you know, is depending on when you put hops in the brew. Early on bittering, obviously late aroma. All hoppy beers are obviously not necessarily bitter beers. But at any rate, a lot of people are like, wow, it's 100 IBUs, which they know that that's a higher IBU beer. But they're like, well, it certainly doesn't taste like that. And again,
This
that's
should be
because you
bitter.
yeah, pardon me?
I said they're thinking, oh, this should be bitter,
Well,
but
exactly. But you get that, and much like Paradox again, which is the 80 IBUs, that malt backbone, really, I think it balances things, very, very, very well. And certainly from a Imperial stout, category, it's got some, unique and again Belgian influence. I that is another beer that we do all year, and a lot of people, that is that's their favorite beer in the lineup. And I think again, that's a unique beer that we do from an Imperial stout standpoint.
I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the most dangerous beer we've ever featured on this show, because at 9.6% alcohol, this does not drink like that. I mean, it's a big beer. There's big flavors in it. It is so smooth and so drinkable. I'm going to have to actively refrain myself from just sucking this down, because
Yes,
I will
they
be
have been known to sneak
a
up.
mess. Yeah, it's a sneaker of a beer. I can imagine that. So Raised Grain recently expanded its product line beyond just malt-based beers with the Diamond line of seltzers. And you've already talked about working with Pro Brew on your 20-barrel brew house at the new production facility, but I also read that you worked with them on creating this new product line, especially utilizing a new piece of equipment for you. Do you want to talk more about that Diamond line of seltzers and that process behind creating those?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, the name of the equipment is the Alchemator, actually, and it is Pro Brew. And basically it's very unique because you are basically using a system of membranes, and that is oversimplifying it tremendously. But basically what you're able to do is you're able to, brew, a fermented, product. And it basically goes through the system, again, with a series of membranes, and you're able to extract the water and the alcohol as basically a seltzer base, leaving everything else behind. Which is yeah, there you go.
Cool.
Perfect. Which is really crystal clear. And then on the other end of that, after you've taken this crystal clear alcohol and water base out of your basically base fermented product, Then you add carbonation to that and flavors, and we get our hard seltzers. So it's a very unique piece of equipment. It's interesting. Seltzers are one of the longer processes and one of the harder things actually to make. But it's a very unique piece, and I think our seltzers are. I think they also kind of bespeak the unique nature of that piece of equipment. So, we have done a host of different type of, of seltzers with basically different flavors. And again, that's we do lime, we do a cherry lime, we do a mango, and these are just beautiful, crystal clear seltzers, and all because of this piece of equipment that we have through them. So we've been excited with that product line, and it's been received really well. And it's nice because obviously, as we all know, I speak heresy, but not everybody likes to drink beer. And so it's nice, to have these other products, and obviously in the environment, the seltzers have really, if you will, taken off. And there are other people who, prefer not to have necessarily a beer all the time and have that as an option. So, that's been a big addition, again, which has been very well received in our line of products at Raised Grain.
You do a great job with these Belgian beers. You have other styles as well. I love your Hefeweizen that I've had there multiple times. Now you're doing seltzers as well. Is there a beer that you haven't been able to do yet, as whether as a style or just something you want to try and just haven't had a chance to do so far?
Well, I think certainly one of the things we've talked about, and we, of course, everybody in the world, including us, were derailed a little bit about the C word. If you know, of course, what that was, that little thing that happened, of course, not too long ago. But getting some fitters and doing true sours and lambics, and now we are doing some with not just kettle sours, which we have done and started with. But I think that is one of the styles of beer that eventually, we would like to get some true, fetters and do the, which is, as it's a long process, right? Basically, a rotation of, 3 years, et cetera, doing what they do and pulling out and, putting it. So, that I think is something that we would like to do in the future. That's probably, if I was going to pick one that we would like to do, that would probably be first on the list.
Yeah, no surprise there that you haven't gotten around to that yet. There's no shortcuts with brewing, lambic or in America as breweries like our friends at Crooked Stave do the method traditionnel of that traditional lambic style brewery of long boil, long mash process, labor intensive, extremely long fermentation times, throwing caution to the wind. Things might not work out. You might have to dump some beer. Yeah, that's very difficult, and it makes sense given your background and the obvious innovation and expansion and iteration that Raised Grain is pushing for. So just to wrap things up here before we take off, what is one thing that you wish Milwaukee, Waukesha, the whole Wisconsin area was more well known for?
Boy, that's a great question. I think if we want to again be, beer centric, I think that as a community, I think we're starting to catch up from that standpoint. I think that Milwaukee, ironically, right, the city of beer, has, at least from a craft standpoint, probably lagged a little bit behind, the Minneapolises, the Denvers, some of these other places from that standpoint. But, boy, I'm trying, it's a good question. I'm trying to kind of think of what, I mean, I think the Milwaukee area having more from a craft beer standpoint, I would like to see. Now we've really grown as a community from that standpoint, and we've continued, despite challenges that we've had, obviously, in the last few months or years, et cetera. We've managed to still grow, the number of craft breweries that we've had here. But I would like us, to see a little bit, more of that from that standpoint. We're known for, some of these bigger ones, but I think we're becoming more known as a community from a craft beer standpoint. Otherwise a non-beer thing, if you want a non-beer thing, I think we're already known for our cheese curds and all these other things that we do, right? But our fish fries, we actually have a fish fry. Milwaukee is pretty known for their fish fries.
We are right in the middle of fish fry season.
We are right in the middle of fish fry season. Exactly. So I think Waukesha as a community has also, started to grow in a lot of ways, and hopefully Raised Grain has played a role in that, from a standpoint of, at least on the craft brewing scene. Like I said, they've been amazing to work with, and the support we've had from that community has been huge. Which again is like I said, a humbling thing, and it's so great to be able to see people. It's fun because actually, I'll tell you a little story, but being obviously, seeing a lot of patients on the vascular side of things, I actually have a fair number of patients who actually come out to the brewery. And so, we have, a cadre of younger beer tenders there, and we'll do beer releases, and I'll be behind the bar, I'm sorry, and, serving beers and things. And so a couple of these patients will come up and be like, "Oh, hey, Dr. Gosset." And these beer tenders like, why are they calling you Dr. Gosset? I'm like, because those are my patients. They're like, "What? Your patients come to the brewery?" Like there should be some disconnect between, the hospital and patients, and, where I'm like,
All part of the community.
Actually real people who like to drink beer too. So it's a cool thing. That's a cool thing to be able to, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to do what we do. Certainly on my doctor part of things, but it's a privilege to be able to do this too, from on the brewing side of things, and to have people enjoy the beer, and to, hopefully get it, kind of support culture, and support the community, and support Waukesha and everybody else who comes out and has the beer, and again, have patients and have friends and all those kind of things, and then have new people who come to the brewery. And like I said, obviously from the distribution standpoint, we're kind of a U-shaped in Wisconsin now. We go through Madison, we go up to La Crosse, and then now we're up in Fox Valley and up in that area there. And so that's been a really cool thing. But from a standpoint of wanting more from that, that's kind of what that we can always grow that and always have that. And like I said, I hope that Raised Grain has made a contribution to that.
Well, that's awesome. I love that answer. And folks at home, if you want Raised Grain beer, you got to go to Wisconsin. You got to make that journey. You got to go out there, take your ice scrapers with you, get your niceties, get ready to eat a bunch of cheese curds, drink and drink a lot of good small breweries. Fun fact that I don't think we've talked about here. The number one selling beer in Wisconsin is a craft brewery. Spotted Cow is the number one selling beer in Wisconsin, and it is only available in Wisconsin. So that's another, if you want another reason to go there, go and drink Spotted Cow, go and drink Raised Grain, go and check out all these awesome breweries in the Milwaukee and surrounding Milwaukee areas. Before we get out of here, Jimmy, anything else? Anything else to plug for Raised Grain?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys so much for featuring the brewery and for having me. And
very welcome.
It's nice meeting you guys virtually. And so thanks very much. We really appreciate that.
Oh, you'll see me at the brewery too, Jimmy. Not to worry.
Awesome.
With our City Brew Tours group, we'll be stopping by.
Yeah, when I see you there, I can give you a tour of the brew house back there again if you'd like. So I'm always, it's somewhat of a running joke that if I give a brewery tour, you might be back there for 3 or 4 hours, but I can give you the short,
the abridged version. Yeah,
I can give you the abridged version too. I tend to like to spend some time and a lot of time in the cooler too, which has been another ongoing thing. But like I said, guys, thanks so much. Thanks for the support. Thanks for all that. And so at the brewery, and also true kind of to the Belgian Walloon spirit that runs through the brewery, we always say santé. So santé is the Walloon French to your health. And so I'll raise a glass to you guys and to everyone else on the podcast. Thanks for joining. And again, thanks for having us. And santé.
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 Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're very welcome, Dr. Jimmy. Everybody else at home listening, if you want to follow along with Raised Grain, they can be found on Instagram at Raised Grain Brewing Co. That's at Raised Grain Brewing Co. If you want to follow along with us, we're at Brewvana. Again, thanks to Raised Grain for supplying the beers for this episode, as well as for our beer club. If you want to check out subscription options for the beer club and get great beers like these shipped to you on a monthly basis, head over to brewvana.com and explore our options there. We'll be back next week with one more episode to close out our month of coverage on the great city of Milwaukee. But until then, stay safe, be kind, and support local breweries, everybody. Slante.
Santé.
Thanks for watching Brews Less Traveled on YouTube. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interviews with brewery professionals.